Okay, so welcome everyone to the last meetup session of 2024. Can you believe it? The MS Excel Toronto Meetup group. It's wonderful to see you here today. Thank you for joining us live. Today we have Dick Moffat. He will be talking about building solutions in Excel, regardless of where the data source is. It will be interesting, and I'll get back to you, Dick, in just a minute. Please allow me to welcome everyone, especially those who are joining us for the first time. I know some people joined recently. The group has been growing, which is great to see. And especially for those of you who are new, the way it works is that after the session, it may take us a couple of days, we will upload the recording to our YouTube channel. And from there, we will we will also send out an email to everyone who registered for this session, and in that email we will send you the link for the recording and also any extra information we may have for you, a file that Dick, our presenter today, will share with us, and some other extra information. Some of it I will be showing you just right away. So that's usually how we work. Our group has been running these monthly sessions since 2019, and you can expect an email from us soon. We will have some news for you regarding sessions on the new year. And excuse me. And apologies for not having that out yet, but lately I've been quite busy. Some of you who follow me on LinkedIn may be aware that I was away on attending the Microsoft Excel World Championship in Las Vegas on behalf of Sheetcast. Sheetcast is our sponsor, but recently became also my employee. I work full time for them, and I get to go represent them to these fabulous events, which is awesome. I met wonderful people, and the energy there was amazing. Michael German from our very city, Toronto. He's not from here, he's British, but you know, Canadians always do that. If you are in Toronto and you are successful, we claim you as ours, and that's what we do. And Michael Jarman has been living in Toronto for a few years and became the new Excel champion. Um, Beating Andrew and I, who had been the champion for 3 years in a row, so quite an accomplishment, and it's been a whole celebration since then. Okay, let's move on. If you have any questions, feel free to use the chat, and we will be monitoring the chat, okay? Dick has requested that questions about his presentation are done at the end, so we will keep your questions and we will address them at the end of the presentation. Well, before that, I think I have a couple of announcements here. Okay, let's go back. So I mentioned our YouTube channel. The recording will be put there. Be mindful that your participation might be part of anything we publish about you. There's some noise. Let's see if I can turn off the sound. Okay, there we go. And let's go back here. Grania Duggan has joined me as a co-host a while ago. My name is Celia Alves, for those of you who don't know me. I am an Microsoft Excel MVP since 2020. And yeah, and I've been working as a Microsoft as an Excel business solutions developer, so doing similar things as the one that Dick is going to show us today. Probably not even not as advanced. I'm not sure what Dick is going to show, but anyways, we are doing the same thing, which is using Excel to help companies save money, save time at automating their procedures. Excel can do so much for companies, and that's what I had been doing for a couple of years. In the past year or so, a little over 1 year, I was working as a business analyst for a transportations company. And as I mentioned before, just recently joined Sheetcast, where I develop solutions using their add-in. Sheetcast. More on that maybe later, sometime in the new year. And I'm also representing them and helping them building the Excel community. That's one great thing about Sheetcast is that they have always supported the Excel community in many ways. And Grania has been with us since our session, first session back in 2019. Okay, so no sessions posted yet, but wait for news. We will be posting our topics soon. We just have to finalize some details with the next presenters. Sheetcast, our sponsor, Sheetcast is an add-in for Excel that allows us to transform a a spreadsheet into a web application in just a few seconds. So all the web development work, uh, you don't need to know how to do it. If you know Excel, you can become a web developer for the purpose of creating web applications with Excel, because all the web development work is done by the add-in. So you can check it out, sheetcast.com, and see their demo videos there. Feel free to reach out if you have questions, if you are curious about it. You can you can develop the web applications yourself if you are knowledgeable enough with Excel and you are willing to learn a little bit about Sheetcast, or we can develop for you if you need some kind of solution. Okay, I was telling you about the Microsoft Excel Championship, which was just the last big Excel event happening last week. The next one is the Global Excel Summit with the theme Excel Connected this year. It's going to be the 5th edition of this event. It will happen in person in London, UK, but also online. So you can register to attend in person if you'd like. You can also you can register to attend online. I'll be there in person this year. I've been presenting online in the past 4 years. And it's a great event, very, very well organized. It brings together presenters, experts, Excel enthusiasts and professionals, and then also several companies that offer products or services somehow related to Excel. They have very good networking tools, even for those attending online. So strongly recommend you to check that out. There's different types of tickets. If you use that link or that coupon code, you can get 10% off. And there's even I believe there's one day that if you buy the ticket for that day only, it's online and it's free. I think they call it the Community Day. So feel free to check it. And yeah, it's just around the corner, beginning of February, so not too far away. Women in Excel, it's a group on LinkedIn founded by Grania and Catherine Mondragon and a few other women. On this group, women can join, and it's a group to share and to connect, to share about any topic and mainly about Excel. It's a place where you have the opportunity to start presenting, for example, if you feel anxious about it and you would like to try it on a more safely environment. Sessions are not recorded. That's it, right, Grania?
Yes, they're not recorded.
Yeah, so it's a place where women can interact and learn and share knowledge about Excel in a more cozy environment. So feel free
make
to
friends.
And make friends. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is great, and it's a great group. So
Yes.
if you are a woman, feel free to join, and Grania will be putting the link there on your chat.
It's there.
On chat in the chat. I meant. And that's it. So there's multiple resources that you can use. There's my newsletter. You can subscribe to receive news about Excel. So you will receive this PDF after the session when I send out that email, and you can explore all these links. There's also my training on how to automate Excel recurring procedures. You can check that out and take advantage of the discount if you'd like. But enough talking. So today we have Dick Moffat here. I'm going to read Dick's bio on our Meetup page. Dick Moffat is a longtime spreadsheet and database developer with corporate clients worldwide and across many industries. His focus has always been on solutions to business requirements that call out for some form of structure, automation, and repeatability. Exactly the type of thing I was doing as well. I've been doing for the past few years. To do this, Dick becomes intimately familiar with the client's business and is as much a business consult to them who uses technology to satisfy their needs. That's exactly right. For us to create a solution, we need to understand the business and learn all the details that are related to the solution we are building. Dick knows that business solutions mostly have a shelf life, although some don't. Yeah, Excel solutions tend to live forever.
Don't we all?
Yeah. And so he has chosen to stay in Microsoft technology, as they have always, in the end, provided the technology he needs to deliver and maintain these applications for long-term use. Windows on the client, Excel in Windows, and Power BI, SQL Server, and Azure databases have been able to give him his kind of platform for decades now. And despite all the noise around us, he really sees that continuing for many more years to come, or at least for the lifetime of any solutions built in the near future. Dick believes we can find a way to bring great value from our skills that we have all worked so long to develop. So using Excel, Dick believes that those skills can do a lot for us and for our clients. And that's what Dick is going to share with us today. Feel free to connect with him on LinkedIn. There's the link is there, and we will send you this information later on the email. It will be on the chat as well. So, Dick, it's your time. Please feel free to fill in any gaps I may have missed in your introduction and show us what you've got for us today. And thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem. I couldn't have said that better myself, Celia.
You wrote it, so
as if I
that's
wrote
fine.
it, you know? It's as if I wrote it. So anyway, hello everybody. Excuse me, I put on a kangaroo jacket because it's cold down here. I am in Canada in December. So I'm sorry, I'm looking casual. I guess I don't really need to explain anything more because it's all in what Celia just said. And thank you for joining us today. And let's get this show on the road here. Can we put well, I guess we can just leave this right like this for now.
You can share your screen if you'd like,
I'm
if you
going to
have
share
something
my
to show.
screen when I'm ready to go, but you can see me here.
Okay, so let me stop sharing then. I think people have taken note of your contact so we can see you better.
Sure, but you could put me up there. Yeah, okay, good. You ready?
Yes.
You know, it's a new and crazy software world. I mean, I think that we have to accept in that crazy world that the era of entering data into Excel and manipulating it to produce reports is pretty much over in the business and finance world, and probably has been for a while. Please don't get me wrong. I love doing these traditional models with their huge formulae and their fancy formatting and all the new bells and whistles that are being added to Excel. Presenting this data in Excel is a great idea, but the energy behind this option for business solutions has faded quite a bit. I don't want to get into the reasons I believe that that's true. That's not my topic today. But helping you source data from multiple external sources and aggregating this data into an Excel report or even into a Power BI report or one made from another dashboarding tool is what I'm going to talk to you about today. and how it can be a genuine alternative to other technologies you might use for this purpose. I'll show you how you can do just that by using many of the skills you already have in Excel that we all know and love. I remember when I used to build and stage and maintain all the parts of a large, often multi-user distributed solution in Excel and Access as well. Including in that would be maybe multiple of my own files, plus a SQL database or an Azure database or two. And I controlled everything completely and entirely. But those days are behind us. Companies now run their businesses using many varied technologies that live locally, like spreadsheets, but databases and other internal software on their corporate networks. But there are also solutions out in the cloud provided by an infinite number of potential vendors using a blizzard of technologies anywhere in the world. Everything is distributed. Now, one special point I must make is that the people who provide these cloud-based and even internal resources don't always appreciate your efforts if you try to connect to their data. You must expect this, and it can add significantly to your effort, or it could even kill your project in the worst case. But that's just the way it's going to be. Anyone trying to do an aggregation of data from multiple sources is going to run into the same problems, so don't take it personally. But I'm here to tell you that our beloved Excel actually has the capacity to be a critical player in the corporate business data, business intelligence story of any large, medium, or small company, and at a cost and in time frames that will actually be very attractive compared to many of these other alternatives. And you Excel developers or advanced users can do this yourself. Today, I'll show you an application, a real application I have built using Excel for Windows that will display some of the techniques I've developed over the years. It is actually. Now, what I'd like to do is start my slideshow and whip into my presentation. You guys ready for it? Share.
Yeah.
There we go. Now, I'm going to be switching my sharing back and forth a little bit. I warn you. Oh, interesting. Oh, okay, here we go. Don't do this to me. What are you seeing now?
I'm seeing you, Dick.
Okay.
I'm seeing you, not your
What are you
screen.
seeing now?
Looks like a space shuttle taking off or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, your dashboard.
Okay. All right, so let me see. Oh, this is different. When I shared before, I found I didn't have any problems. So this is, I'm ready
Can
for
you
this.
share again? Because I had
I'm
you.
going to share again and let's see what happens.
I had
Window,
you just a
entire
second.
screen. It's interesting. It doesn't want to share
no.
my.
Yeah, sorry. Try again. It's because I had put you on spotlight. Maybe it's because of that. But now I stopped that. So
okay, try it
maybe
again.
the behaviors should change.
No.
But it worked just before we started the meeting, right?
That's okay.
Yeah, we tested it. It worked.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Allow. Okay, this might look better. I'm
So
sorry
now,
about this.
don't click there because you clicked stop sharing.
That's disturbing.
Yeah, you shared, but then you clicked stop sharing. I saw it on the screen.
You saw it? Okay. Yeah. Now I'm sharing.
Okay. Hold on for. No.
When I did it earlier, I could switch between them. Entire screen.
Yeah.
So you need to do share and then select a monitor. Do not choose an application, okay?
That's exactly what I'm doing, but I'm only seeing one application.
Can you try again?
Okay, I can do this a couple of ways.
Okay, we're seeing it. You're seeing you now. That's
we are seeing you are using a Mac.
I'm using a Mac. What are you seeing now?
we see PowerPoint.
Are you seeing a PowerPoint?
Yes.
Excel is the engine for data publishing and consolidation?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, my God. Excuse me. Wow.
Thank you.
Whew,
Success.
that scared me for a bit.
Yeah.
So it says what now? The client?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so here's the application. The client here, who, by the way, has given me rights to show this without any problems. As you'll see, what they do, what we're showing you is not financial data. What it is he says, well, it doesn't matter. It's like, can somebody please pick up the dog crap around the mailbox, stuff like that, right? So that's exactly what he said, which I thought was cute. And so there's nothing. This is real data, but you'll find it not very interesting, the data itself. This client in Edmonton manages condominium corporations in Western Canada and has up to 100 clients. Now, managing condominium corporations mean if you have a condominium corporation, they'll sign a contract with you and they will manage the business, the external of the business and aspects of the business for you. And so that's what they do. Now, my client's business has contracts, like I said, to manage 100 or more condo corporations in the Western Canada. And the main function is to keep track of issues that come up in day-to-day management of each condominium's buildings and grounds. Now, this requires capturing issues as they come up, assigning a due date for a resolution of the issue sometime in the future, and assigning the issue to a company employee and make it happen as soon as possible while tracking when they are completed, if not completed, and how long they might be overdue. You create a task and you work to complete it. This may not seem too complex, but believe me, it is, and I'll show you why. The client uses two software technologies. This is a large part of the reason why it's complex. There are two ends of the business and two types of data collection. So this is no different than if we wanted to reach out and pull data from QuickBooks and also from the company's operational management tools or HR information. If we had multiple sources of data, they want to bring them together. That's what we're doing here. We have two data sets and we're going to bring them together. One end is capturing the tasks created by the condo corps themselves, and that is in a product called Condo Control. Now, Condo Control is a cloud application that allows management on site to add issues into an individual database for that specific condo corporation. Now, that's really important. But the maker of the cloud software, Condo Control, which is a great piece of tech, they do not provide a simple way to consolidate the data from multiple condo corporations. That is really not their business. Their product is designed to help out individual condo corporations. It wasn't designed with the idea that there would be a master company above that, and like an umbrella company that would be responsible for, say, 100 of their individual condo members. And they could have several hundred in their stable at Condo Control, but Blueprint would only have 100 or so. Now, pulling together a consolidation of this data in a timely manner is goal number one. At the other end of the spectrum, my client on the right-hand side there keeps its own list of issues in an MS Planner solution. And this is accessible through Microsoft Teams. MS Planner has similar data for tasks that are generated at their offices by my client's staff. So it's two separate data sets for two different groups, but it's of the same information. It's not the same information, but it's two different sets of tasks, two different sets of service requests. The data collected there is close to the other data in Condo Control, but unfortunately, and as often the case, it is not the same exactly. So sucking out the MS Planner data into some format is goal number two. Then I merge the two data sets together as best I can. That is goal number three. And then I create an online management report, which is the ultimate goal of this, in a queryable way over time, location, manager, other factors, and that is goal number 4. And this is a map of the parts of this system. Condo control on the left has multiple databases with multiple tables in each, and we want to access a couple of tables in each of these. MS Planner, on the other hand, is a single unit that is for Blueprint, and it has multiple tables as well. What they want to do is consolidate this data. Whoops, sorry, I got ahead of myself. And use that data, create a report. So goal number 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what is the report? What are we going to have for a report? What technology do we really want to create the report in? Now, the client's initial opinion was that it should be done in Power BI, which is the way people mostly talk. But that ain't that easy. And even more critically, what technology do we use to capture and aggregate the data to be used in this Power BI report? Now, since they asked for a Power BI report, my efforts began with figuring out how to extract the data from both MS Planner and Condo Control from within Power BI. The process took me weeks of frustration and disappointment. And that's what can happen, but that's just the game if we want to play in the game. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes, oh well, and that's the way it's going to be. I consider myself a pretty capable Power BI developer, especially on the data side. But after all the effort, I was kind of at a loss. I feared that I was going to fail and that I'd never get paid for all the efforts that I put in. And then my client threw me a loop. Dick, maybe you could do the application in Excel instead of Power BI. Yes, right? I mean, they sort of saved me. I hadn't told them I was having trouble in Power BI with the data side, but they came through and said, let's do it in Excel. And of course, it was a cost issue, I'm pretty sure. Now, I don't like to think myself as a kind of person who has a hammer and everything looks like a nail, and my hammer is Excel. But I do know that Excel, what Excel can do, and I know how to do it. And that was an easy decision for me. The fact is, if I'm using only Excel, I would be able to take advantage of all that Excel has to offer as a data management tool. Now, what does Excel offer? It offers a mature, reliable, and robust environment. It has native and/or third-party data connectivity. It has multi-sheet spreadsheet structure. And it has a use of data tables, which is one of actually my favorite capability in Excel, which is maybe sounds strange, but it's true. It has a thing called Power Query. Now, I find that most people, when I talk to generic spreadsheet users, don't know anything about Power Query. I'm sure most of you do, but Power Query is the magic bullet in Excel these days, right, Celia? You're allowed to speak, Celia, but okay.
Yes, sorry, I was muted.
Pardon
Power
me?
Query is the best.
It's the core.
It's magic. It's the magic.
It is absolutely magic, but on the other hand, it's a lot of work. Okay, let's accept that to get to know Power Query is a lot of work, and that's just the way it is. But as far as I'm concerned, it's time well spent. It just changes everything about how you use this technology. It makes everything work. The other tool is VBA. Now, VBA doesn't play a huge part in this solution, but it's a critical part. And VBA is the historic automations tool within Excel. Now they're talking about, and they've come out with basically a JavaScript-based scripting language, and it's just not up to the power or capabilities of VBA. And VBA only runs in Windows in the client in Excel in Windows. It doesn't run in the cloud. I am of the belief that if you're going to do anything serious in Excel, you got to use Excel in Windows. That is my story, and I don't think I'm going to change that for a very, very long time. And there's no reason not to, because it's available. The other important thing that it allows me to do, as you'll see, I can start this automatically and I can run it on a schedule. And this is part design in Excel and also Windows magic. And so it can provide a repetitive, reliable, ongoing solution. So here we go. This is the design that I came up with once I realized I was only going to do an Excel. I created an Excel file to process the MS Planner data. I created an Excel file to process the condo control data. And I'm going to show you how each of those files and the work behind it. Now, I'm not going to show you detail because that would take hours, but I'm going to show you the concept and a bunch of the code and a bunch of the Power Query and how it's all integrated. Each of these files spits out each one's one separate extract file of data. And this is, I do this using my add-in that I wrote with David Hoppe over in Holland. And we've written it twice. So this is the new light version of Excel Publish. And what it does is it extracts only the data from these files that I want to move on to the next stage. And the next stage is a consolidation file, which brings in these two files here and then creates charts and pivot tables and lists and all the different reports in Excel. And the whole thing is driven by one master list that is the only thing that the client maintains. In it, they say, what businesses are we affiliated with? What is their code if you want to talk to it in condo control? And who is the manager of each of those locations so that my client can change, they can add and remove people or people managers, they can add and remove clients, and they do that themselves. And that file that they manage automatically gets pulled into our consolidation so that we can create our charts, et cetera, et cetera. So let's have a look at the products that we want to look at. Like I said, there's three main programs. The first one is the MS Planner extension file. It is called, for argument's sake, MS Planner version 02, although I don't know why, it could be version 18 as far as I'm concerned. And it's just an arbitrary name that I've assigned to an XLSM file. It pulls in source data from MS Planner, and it uses the CData MS Planner add-in. Now, this add-in from CData is an exceptional tool, and we'll talk about it in a bit. It will retrieve data into the Excel sheets. Then when we want to refresh it on a regular basis, we use VBA to tell it refresh, 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 and it refreshes on a timely basis. And then we use VBA to extract the results into using XLPL to a local drive. Now, that's an important thing. It's a local drive rather than a cloud drive. And we'll talk about that in a minute.
What is XLPL, Dick?
Oh, that's XLP Lite. That's Excel Publish Lite. So in future, I'll call it XLPL, as opposed to Excel Publish, which is our first program, which had too many bells and whistles. And so we built a light version. That's what this rectangle is.
Okay, so that's the other add-in that you were developing a couple while ago.
And
I
that's
see.
not really what this presentation is about, but it's an important part of my solution because it saves me a lot of time. Okay.
Okay.
And we'll see it in a minute. Did I just do that? Wow. That's an interesting there. Now I'm back, right?
Yeah.
Now, the whole idea is you use this file, you export the data, and this is the output that we get. So let's go and have a look at this if we can. Now, am I back in, okay, I got to probably, you're not seeing yourself now, are you? Are you? No, there we go.
I'm seeing everybody.
There we go. You're seeing everybody.
Yep.
Like that's where we are. Okay, good.
Okay. I'm
Let's
seeing
go have a-
everybody.
Let's have a peek here. What do you see now?
Everybody.
You still see everybody?
Yep.
Okay.
We see
Here we-
your window that says MS Toronto Excel, and then all your ribbon underneath
Okay.
the
Let me
shortcuts.
stop sharing and let me share again. And let's see what we have here. Put the entire screen. Oh, okay, here we go. This should work. Let's move.
Have some more.
Are you seeing the cliffs of more? Okay,
I
so
am.
now are you seeing some Excel
Yes.
with the published target file, et cetera, right?
Yes.
Okay. What you're looking at there is actually the application running on my client's machine. Now I'm going to kill this process. It doesn't matter because this is only refreshed every couple hours or so, and I will run it again as soon as we're finished our presentation. So here's the deal. I go in here, just a second, please. And I'm going to open the first file, which is called MS Planner 02. Now, what happens in this process is each of these two main files are run, and they don't have anything to do with each other, but one runs, and then it opens the other one, and it runs, and then it opens the third file, and it runs. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, what's happening here is this is part of the opening thing is that it actually pulls data from MS Query. So if I go refresh worksheet, what it's doing is it's extracting the data, it clears the previous data, and it brings new data down. This is real-time data. See how it says 2,000 total rows, and it goes up and up, and it's bringing in the task data from MS Planner that is on my client's machines run by my client's people. And so here's a list of users, tasks. Now there's two other tables that I bring in that we don't really use in the application yet. Now that's a really important thing. You can, because of the way this is worked, you can add and change over time. It'll evolve because businesses always do that. They say, oh, can we add this? Can we add that? And so the whole idea is to be ready and prepared. So what I've got here is this data, and all it is the data connection from Microsoft Planner, where I can choose to bring the plans table, the task table, the users table, and it brings each of these, and I can actually select the fields I want, and it drops them into my spreadsheet. So here's our first example of using a third-party technology to connect to a third-party application and bring our data into Excel. And
Can I ask something, Dick? Sorry.
yes, please.
Sorry, I know you wanted questions at the end, but I think these are important now.
You're the
So
boss. You're the boss, Celia.
yeah, sorry about that. So this you are using that add-in that you mentioned, right? Is it CData, the add-in name? What's the name of the add-in?
It's CData's MS Planner add-in.
Okay,
It's nothing more complicated.
so that's what you use to connect Excel to MS Planner.
Exactly.
And is this?
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, if it is free or it is paid? This add-in.
It is not free. It is $600 a year.
Oh wow!
Which is a lot of money. So
but, well, it may be worth it, right? Anyways.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely worth it, but it's an interesting pricing model they have. And most of their technologies are $600 a year. But if a company is serious about this, and in fact, this application gives them data they couldn't get otherwise, it's just part of the cost of doing business.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
And it's made by CData, who, if you went to their website, don't right now, watch me, they have basically a technology for every known technology in the world. It's unbelievable. I don't know how they have enough time to do it. And the interesting thing is they have QuickBooks add-in, which works like this, which lets you query QuickBooks. And I've done this in a couple of cases. It's fantastically useful because your QuickBooks data becomes Excel data, right? And the funny
awesome.
thing about this is this application is a traditional Excel client add-in. And the funny thing about it is they've come up with a new version, which is got the dialogue on the right-hand side, recognize that? So it is basically written using the newer technology. The problem with that is it totally requires user input, okay? The user would have to push a button in the application to bring each of these tables down. The particular one we've got here is I control it using VBA because something I forgot to tell you. Everything I'm going to show you runs automatically on a timed basis with zero human input. Think about that. Zero human input. It just starts, runs, does its thing, spits out the result, and then shuts down. And there's your new data in Power BI or in Excel. Isn't that something? And the point is, I use this add-in because I have control. Let's go and have a look here of what's in the VBA. Now, I'm assuming that most of you have some experience with VBA. What do you see about all this VBA, Celia? What do you see? Not much. Not
no,
much, right?
no, pretty simple. And yeah,
Very simple. So what happens is when the workbook opens, I run up a macro called run now. And here's run now. It defines the sheet number. Now, the sheets are listed in the spreadsheet under the variables, users, tasks, buckets, and plans. So I use a table to drive what data I pull out. If I wanted to get rid of one table, I just delete this row in this table and it won't do it anymore. So what Excel is doing in VBA is it's going to cycle through all the sheets numbered. One, of course, is users. Then it's going to run enable CData. And this is, I want to show you this just because there's quirky stuff you're going to run into, but it's the way it is. This add-in is very demanding. And so if you're doing other things in Excel, you could run out of memory, like for example, another add-in like the Excel Publish add-in. And so I have it off when I open the file and I actually can connect to that add-in using this code here. And it's standard code you can just steal off the internet, like all good code. And it just turns the add-in on and then it does its business, right? It comes up here and it runs everything, refresh loop, and it actually does each data set one at a time. And what it does, it cycles through it. And in the end, you get all the data. And this Excel Publish Lite, like I said, this is not an ad for this, although it could do it. You can have this if you want. We'll give it to you, no problem. Is you just pick a table or any range of your spreadsheet and you say, I want to include it in what I'm extracting. And so if I went to somewhere here like variables and I go like this, I've now tagged variables. I've added it to the sheet. That's how easy it is. So I've added the variables table to the sheet. And I can also delete it. Yep. Except it broke, but that's fine. I wasn't planning on deleting. You know the saying, if you never improvise in a presentation, I don't know if you
yeah, I've learned that the hard way.
and that was a perfect example.
Yeah.
Now, what am I going to do here?
Don't get creative.
I've broken it. Oh, I think I know. Oh, there it is. Okay, no, come on. Here we go. That's better. Okay, we're back. Now, the whole idea then is this publishes out to let's go back to here. Come on. Okay, here we go. Oh, now let's try this. Watch this. This is skills experience showing up, task manager, Excel. This is called somebody who's done a lot of development. End task. Don't frickin' save. Okay, fine. So what it's done is once it's done, it extracts this data to this external file, which we'll see in a few minutes. And
so
that's
you are,
how it works. Pardon?
so you are exporting using the
The
Excel Lite?
Exactly. And I create
And
a file. Go
can I
ahead.
ask why you are not using Power Query, for example, from the other file? Is it because you want to keep all the operations centered within this file, and Power Query is
It's
about
all
importing,
within
and
this
do you
file.
want to export instead?
Yeah, it's all within this file. And it's hung up again here. Task manager. Oh, there it is. There we go. And okay, thank you. That's right. Excel publish, or no, Power Query doesn't have the ability to export data. You understand?
Correct. Yeah.
And in this particular application, there is a teeny bit of Power Query, but not very much. Basically, all I'm doing is taking each of these ranges, which are provided by my my add-in, and I'm exporting the data that came in to them. So this is a perfect example. You know that in Excel, if you go to data and you get data, you've got a whole lot of sources that you could choose for your database, right? And your data sources are all the same in Power Query as they are in Power BI, as they are in, so that you can access multiple AWS, Oracle, SQL, anything you want. In this case, rather than doing that, I'm using this add-in to get at my data and then just publish that data. So that's how this works. So let's go out of here.
Dick, we're having
Yes.
people request that you zoom into your screen a little bit if you're able to. Just
zoom into my screen.
Yeah, the print is coming a bit small. Like that one, for instance, is a bit small on some screens. So if you're able to zoom in, that'd be helpful.
Yeah,
If
well,
you can't,
you can always do that.
The other way around.
Right?
Yeah.
yeah.
And that kind of thing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay.
Bill. Thank you, Dick.
Now, here's the idea. Now I'm in the next stage, which is condo control. And this is more complicated. And this took me a long time to get working because, and this is the important thing, this is a list of all the workspaces that this client has. These are all the condominium corporations that they support. And each one of these, don't worry about that bit at the bottom, each one of these is an individual database on condo control that we access. So I have a separate file here to do this process to get my condo control data. Now think about that. There's a file for MS Planner data and it spits out results. There's a file for Condo Corp data. It's going to reach out, grab this data, and spit it out into an extracted file. Then the two files are going to be pulled into another file to do my summaries. I could add as many different segments as I want if I have different data sources. Say they have QuickBooks or they have anything. So each one of these applications is a dedicated file and it is unique. Every one of these is unique. Now, this particular one uses what's known as a REST API. Now, a REST API is not the easiest thing you ever saw in your life. It basically is an ability to call a service and tell that service, this is what I want you to give me, and then it returns you the data back that you asked for. And it's kind of awkward, but it's a perfect example of the kinds of stuff you get into. And hey, fact is, companies are going to be dealing with software vendors who use REST APIs quite a bit. So for example, in this case, I have, I'll just tell you quickly, I have a table called table service requests. This is all the service requests I get from one particular one of these condo corporations. And I have to pull that data out for the one condo corp and then stick it at the bottom of a table with all the others that I've already collected. Does that make any sense? So I do one at a time, take that data, put it on the bottom of my list here. Then the next one, put it at the bottom, next one. And I build up a large table of the current data. And that
And
involves pages within each one. So I had to figure out, this was the toughest thing, how to get pages and pages of data out of these. So this would be one page. In this particular case, I'd only get one page because there's only one record. How do I know if I go to a second page that I don't get anything? Is because the same ID would show up. It doesn't clear the data set when it refreshes. If it doesn't find anything, it just leaves it the way it was. And so in my VBA code, which is somewhat more complicated, I have to look for whether or not the first cell in that range has changed. If it hasn't changed, I go on to the next one, the next page. And then when I go through the pages, then I go to the next condo corporation. Now think about that. Each one of these processes takes about 1.5 to 2 seconds. Multiply 100 databases times these 4 tables is a lot of times 2 seconds. It ends up taking about 5 minutes to run this. You have no control over that fact, but it doesn't matter because this data isn't got to be real time. It's what I call real enough time. So what I'm showing you here is the small amount of data that I use to do this. Now, this isn't easy stuff. I'm not apologizing for that. This is complicated stuff, but that's what you do if you write VBA. And the point is that if clients, anybody who writes a solution to amalgamate this data is going to have to deal with these issues. And this is the kind of thing that a good developer has to learn all the time. And every time you learn from one solution, you can apply that probably big chunks of what you learned in the next solution and the next and the next. It's called, in me, it's 40 years of experience has led to this knowledge, where VBA, for example, is a second language to me in my life. And so that's how this works. Now, here's the big thing. Again, at the far right here, I have XLPL again. And these are the tables, updated tasks SQL. Now, what does this create? This creates this table, this file. Sorry, this is a file. This says when this data was last updated, and this was in Edmonton time, so it was at 3:01 today. And that's one sheet. The next sheet is all the tasks that it found, and the next is all the service requests. And that's it. That's the whole file. There's no tables because each file starts in cell A1, and your next solution down the line is just going to pull this data in using Power Query and use that data in its solution. So again, we've gone through 2 files, we've sourced data, and let's go to the third file. Now, the third file is this one. And it, in some ways, is fairly simple. All it really is doing is pulling in the data from those 2 files. And so it's reaching out and it's refreshing the data. And once that data is refreshed in here, I then built a whole entire Excel-based interface so they can look at their tasks, look at all the different things that they have. This is the final report written in Excel. However, I'll show you this in a second. It's still calculated. Actually, it's doing pretty good. In fact, I was worried. I'm using a virtual machine on my Mac, and I'm also connected to AnyDesk.
Teams.
And so
Okay.
all of those things, and they're all getting along surprisingly well, okay? So here we go. Now, come on, puppy. Okay, I'll just kill it. Because here's what I got. This is the Excel report that I've created with this data. I can say, give me these guys' information. Give me these guys. This is called a slicer. I can say BD lots for November. And I want everything that's okay. Let's take everybody. I can say December. And this is all the condo control information. This is the MS Planner information. This is Abe, who is my boss. This is his condo control data and this is an Excel pivot table, if any of you recognizes it. This is some charts based on this same data. This is another dashboard that summarizes the Microsoft Planner information by any way you want, by the business, by the plan. What about infractions? Let's look at their percentage of the number of infractions, etc. Now this is condo control. That's an interesting looking stat, but this is a little more sensible. And then over here, I can query individually service requests, tasks from condo control, and tasks from Microsoft Planner. Now, the reason they're separate is because I have different fields of data coming out of each of these sources. This particular is the only fields that match in the two technologies. And that's the best I can do. But if I go over here, I can say, this is all the fields that are in MS Planner. These are all the fields that are in condo control. And you notice there's a lot less in condo control than there are in MS Planner. This is the result in Excel, which I could then publish to my client. And then something happened. What did the client say? Can anybody guess? Can we put it back into Power BI, please? Okay. Which is a genuine request, but it was, oops, how am I gonna get this into Power BI now, right? How complicated is that gonna be? Well, guess what? All I have to do is download the data using, again, Power Query. So if I go data, queries, I have all these queries in Power Query, and this is the one that has service requests. And this one has all the Microsoft Planner data. And this is all the buckets, and this is all the tasks. All I do now is I extract this data down into these tables. And then I use Excel Publish Lite to export these tables. Now, the actual interesting thing about this is I've added value using Power Query to the original raw tables in order to create what I needed to produce each one of these separate charts and lists, so that I've standardized and added values to my tables using Power Query to add things like what year, what month, etc., and merge data from multiple tables so that I have a master set of data from each of these data types here.
Did you create a data model, Vic, on Excel? Did you use Power Pivot for a data model?
No, I don't use the data model because these are tables
Independent
that I downloaded from Power Query, right? Mm-hmm. So you can directly download these from Power Query into tables in Excel. I didn't move it to the data model and then down into here, right?
No, sometimes we could connect them using Power Pivot if we need the information to be connected somehow. That's why I'm asking.
Okay, well, that's what's going on here. These guys this is a pivot table, and that's exactly what's happening, right? So the data is in Power Query, and it gets sent over to the data model, which of course is in Power Pivot, and then that's what I use as the source.
Okay, so you are using.
I'm using it for this stuff, but to put this down, I'm just dropping it from Power Query. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, you understand, Celia, and I understand, and I know, how do I pronounce your name? Rainy?
Grania.
Anya?
Grania.
Sorry, please forgive me. You can mispronounce my name, Dick, all you want. But we understand the difference between Power Query, the Power Pivot, and pivot tables and tables and stuff. What you end up doing is integrating all these technologies to best effect, right? And that's what's so beautiful about this. These are not pivot tables. These are just tables. And then they're exported, and there's a difference here. These are exported. If you can't, I don't know if you can see this. Let me expand this a bit. This target is going to a OneDrive folder. The other ones only went to local folders on this machine. Now, why would I want to publish this to a OneDrive folder? Anybody guess, Celia?
For sharing purposes, maybe with other users?
Sharing purpose with Power BI, okay?
Okay.
Power BI can have a permanent connection to your OneDrive folder, and
Correct.
you can tell Power BI every 2 hours, please look and see if this data has been refreshed, or even just import the data. What the hell, right? If it hasn't changed, import it again. If it has changed, you'll get new data, right? And so by putting this out to OneDrive, I'm making it available to Power BI for the next stage of this process. Now, what's cool about this is that I'm extracting all the information, all the data that was used to drive these objects in Excel. And so all I really need to do in Power BI is recreate these objects in Power BI. Think about that. So in effect, I'm using Excel to prototype my charts, my lists, all these aspects of my data. I do it in Excel, and then I just recreate it in Power BI. When the boss of this company said, can we move it to Power BI? I did it in a weekend. I recreated the whole thing in Power BI in a weekend because I already had the data all nice and organized and ready. I'd already made my charts, and I'd made my dashboard, and I knew what all my
Slicers.
information was going to be. All my slicers are going to be, right? So here's the deal. Let's go out of here now, and let's say goodbye to AnyDesk. And let's now. What are you looking at now? Are you looking
Your
at the
desktop, the cliff,
Pardon me?
yeah.
Cliffs
The
of Moher.
cliffs. The cliffs of Moher. Okay, so now are you looking at us again? Here we are, right? Correct? Okay, I'm going to go to Power BI. Now you'll know that I've done a few things in Power BI. The evidence of that is the list of workspaces. Now I have workspaces down here to the left, and these are all the workspaces I've created over the years. That's a lot of workspaces. This one, my big one, was my COVID. All right, it was captured all my COVID
Data.
information.
I remember that
as long
one.
as COVID was an issue, right? So now if I go here and choose Blueprint, sorry, come on again. Here's Alan Murray, Blueprint. Now this is all the moving parts of Blueprint. Now here's the deal. There is a Data Mart. Power BI has a thing called a Data Mart, and a Data Mart allows you to, it's a way to have a small database that is not necessarily dragged into the big corporate control of a regular Power BI database. It's kind of an interesting trick. And it's not really a trick. It's just my hope is that when I use these data marts, IT won't notice that I'm doing this. It's not that I'm doing anything nasty, but the more IT gets involved in these kinds of things, the worse it is. And this client doesn't have an IT department, but I still I'm sort of their IT department, and myself and another guy Jeff, who's responsible for all their equipment. And so what I've done here, if we go up here, look what I'm looking at now, Celia. This is the Power Query within Power BI. And so here I'm looking at exactly Power Query and Power BI. And once it's calculating here, again, we were, okay, it's taking longer than usual. There it is. It says this data was refreshed at 4:26 today, Edmonton time, right? And the source of this data is that file CPMC summaries 07X, which is the actual file that was spit out by my summary file. And it's in my SharePoint folder, my OneDrive folder. And so this path is to the one file. All of these are one file. So if I go here, all tasks due dates, here is the source. And its source is the same. They're all the same. CC tasks, and it's all the same. And I'm not doing a lot. All I'm doing is promoting the titles and transforming, changing the type of my columns to make sure that all my column types of my data are correct. Because if by default, it makes everything in any type. And so you don't want that. What you really want to do is change it to a date type in this case, right? Or a string or a whole number. So that's just part of the management. This is not a lesson on Power BI, but that's the kind of thing you have to do. So now that I've done this, let's really make things complicated.
Did we miss Dick? Did we lost him?
I think
he may have turned off Teams by mistake.
He's not in the presenters list anymore. I'll watch to see if he logs back in.
I've done that myself a couple of times, turning off Teams when I just wanted to turn on to close Teams when I just wanted to close whatever I was using the application. So, but while we wait for him, I'm sure he will join back. If anyone has some questions or comments, please let me know. What I like of what I'm seeing, there you are. You are muted. Unmute yourself,
Oh,
please.
and he's not a presenter either.
Oh, okay. I'm going to.
Sorry about that. I accidentally closed the whole thing. Okay.
Yeah, I was saying that. I've done that too a couple of times myself. Let me just make you a presenter.
I've got a couple more things to show.
Yeah,
We'll
make a presenter.
All right, I think it's
there. Yeah, don't click the X.
Yes, the people in Australia, it's the morning. It's not so bad.
Yeah, I've done that a couple of times. I want to close the application window and I close Teams.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what this guy did.
And then goodbye.
Exactly. Okay, now, are you looking at my
your browser with Teams?
You're looking at the browser with Teams. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. Okay, we're going to try to get this back to where we were before with. Okay, let's try this and then. Okay. Come on. Anyway, let's go back here. Are you seeing my rocket ship, you guys?
Yes.
Okay. Let me fix this. Let me do it this way. I'm going to go back to.
I needed to use the battery for my devices, and it was empty, blank, dumb, flat.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think Paul is talking to someone else. I'm going to
he's talking to somebody else. Okay.
I think so.
Okay,
if not, Paul, you can unmute yourself again.
That's fine. So I can. What I want to do is get back to my windows that I had. Right, I had windows before. Let's try this. Now, are you seeing windows? Are you seeing blue?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now let's go back to here.
And Power BI, I think. Oh, you were just closing Power BI before, right?
Okay, here we
Yeah,
go. Right? Okay, so now you're in this.
PowerPoint.
So that's there's one thing I want to tell you about, and I don't want to go on a length about it. In Power BI, to build a Power BI solution, you have to use Power BI Desktop, and Power BI Desktop allows you to connect to that same data set and create charts, and all the objects that I created in Excel, I created them all, and the result was an actual, well, let me see if I can do this without messing us up here again. Come on, here we go. I'm going to go back. Okay, are you back to here?
Teams.
Back to seeing yourselves? Okay, so let's
yes.
go to Power BI. I'm about to do the grand finale here. Hold on a second. And then we'll take questions.
Yeah, there's one question already there, but we can wait a little bit.
I'll be here as long as you guys need. So if I go into Blueprint, when I published from Power BI,
you are not sharing your screen. I'm not sure if you want to share.
You're not seeing it. I'm seeing. Is that you guys?
Yeah. So you need to share because you stopped sharing.
Okay. So let me share this screen. Okay. So here we go. Workspaces.
Yeah.
Blueprint Master 3. What you're looking at here now is the result of the work I did in Power BI. I've recreated exactly what I had plus more in Power BI using the same data that I extracted from that Excel file. And it refreshes every 2 hours, right? So here, for example, is a list of all my service requests. And this is all the service requests for Cedar West. Yeah, and I can say, here's all my CC tasks. So what you're looking at here is the same thing I did in the Excel file, but it's in Power BI. And I didn't have to do a lot of effort in Power BI in order to create this. On the other hand, it didn't take me a lot of effort in Power BI because I know Power BI, right? Power BI is a big, big story. It's incredibly powerful, and it is a lot to learn. I've spent years learning it, and I've made very little money from supporting Power BI. And I think I'm probably pretty normal in that regard. But it's the coolest thing going, right? Now, there's one thing more I want to do. Now, are you seeing PowerPoint again?
No.
Are you seeing the blue screen?
Yes, we are seeing still Power BI.
Okay, so look at, you're seeing Power BI?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Let's, I see. I got it. I want to show you one last thing, and then I'll wrap. Entire screen. Ta-da. Okay. Nope. Stop sharing. Entire screen. Isn't this a wild way to live? Okay, share. All right. Now are you seeing windows? Are you seeing blue windows?
Yes.
Okay. The trick of all of this is in Windows. Now, I'm going to go and show you something that you're going to be, a lot of people don't even realize it exists. Let me go here and type task. Come on, task. Why are you not?
On the magnifier, maybe?
Schedule it. No, I got it. I know what's going on. And I'm going to move it, task scheduler, and I'm going to move it over here so you can see it. Hold on. This is called Task Scheduler, and this is a native capability in Windows that I've always known is here, and I've played around in the past, but not with a lot of success. But this time it works. What I've done is I created a batch file. The batch file opens Excel with administrative rights on the client's machine, and then it opens the MS Planner file. And then when the MS Planner file is finished, that opens the condo control file. And when that's finished, it opens the summary file. And when the summary file is finished, it closes everything and goes back to sleep. 2 hours later, it does the whole thing all over again. Do you understand? So I've created an automatic process that runs from 8 in the morning till 7 at night Edmonton time on that machine. And that gives me a fully automated solution written in Excel. And I think that's pretty cool myself.
It is.
Now, the funny thing about this is that it's insanely complicated. And that's because that's the business requirement. And I hate to tell you, but this is the way it's always going to be going forward. Every client is going to want to use Excel to aggregate their information. And you know how inside at one application, you can always say, I want to export this report to Excel, right? And you get an Excel file. So say if you have 5 or 6 reports, you got to manually do that in the product. And then you got to go to the other product and do the same thing. And then you got to find all these Excel files, bring them all together, copy and paste, blah, 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 blah. With doing the way I've done this, I'm connecting directly to their database with some effort, and I'm sucking their data right into my Excel file and doing my thing in Excel and spitting it out in such a way that Power BI can use it. And then I'm adding this process that says, run it every 2 hours. Vroom, 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 and it runs it every 2 hours. If it's not quite as complicated as this, it can take seconds to run these processes. Like if you're querying QuickBooks, it's like 10 seconds to get all the data. So you could have this, in a way, you could have this running in real time in a lot of situations if the queries you're doing are returning data quickly, right? It's certainly not real time. It's what I call real enough time. That's the phrase I use, right? And let's keep something in mind. One last conclusion. There certainly may be other technologies other than Excel by which you can automate this process, but I have trouble imagining them. I really do have trouble imagining somebody building something that works like this, where the user doesn't have to do anything and is pulling data from as many data sources as you want. Think about that. You automate this process, but I have trouble thinking of anyone that gives this for free, which is what Excel basically does, except for our efforts, and allows me or you to manage so many moving parts in one place so easily and with the least amount of gotchas. That's a really important thing. Gotchas. Do we all know what a gotcha is? I'm assuming in Australia you guys call them gotchas, or is that a North American thing? Because you're always going to have gotchas once you start talking to other data. But the reality is that this is the way it is. This is what people want. If you work for a company, they're going to want you to do this. If you're a contractor or a consultant, they're going to ask you if you can do this. And if you can't do this, they're going to find somebody else who's going to fail trying to do it. But you can actually do it. You can actually make it happen. Now, I know Excel, so the old hammer and nail thing, right? So it is easier for me than learning a bunch of new tech. But I think there will always be enough to learn in all the new technologies. So having Excel as the core gives me a lot of control and the ability to develop standards that can be used over and over again. Because each one of these little files, even though they're unique, are built in the same way. They're built on the same concept. And so if I had 5 or 6 different data sources, and I know one client has 5 or 6 different little cloud solutions for all the parts of their business, you can do it. I hope you see the value of the design I used for this and other solutions that are like this. This is not a new thing for me, but I've never strung it together quite like this. This is the pinnacle. Proposing Excel-based solutions like this might not be an easy sell, though, in many companies. But I always tell myself, you can't work for everyone, Dick. I only need a few clients, right? If you work for a company, you got to convince them that Excel can do it. Now, the way to do that is talk to them of your client about, if it's internal or external, about how you can satisfy their business requirements. Don't even mention Excel until it gets too late. Proposing a Power BI solution is what they want to hear, or even you want to create an Excel, I can give you an Excel report or dashboard, that's no problem. But in that they can comprehend. But the idea of all the work in the background, just say, yeah, I can do it. And you don't have to tell them that it's Excel. That's not lying. That's not being deceptive. You just try to avoid it if you can. And then you produce and they're happy. But as I showed you, you can use Excel to collect the data, aggregate the data, prototype the objects for your report. Then you can deliver it in Power BI or any dashboarding tool or in a slick and functional Excel report. I believe, and this is the big conclusion, that this technique can open many opportunities for Excel and for your Excel skills. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Did I blow you away?
Yeah, I always enjoy seeing. So that's the what I believe makes an Excel expert is the ability to choose, pick and choose from all the options we have available, not only within Excel, inside Excel, but also the other tools, and be able to come up with a combination of different things that solves the problem for the client.
And that's the world we live in.
Yeah.
Right? The world of building a little Excel solution that lives in itself is just gone. It's just gone. Nobody's gonna.
Yeah, no, exactly. Data is everywhere, and we need to just come up with something. But still, Excel is what can bring everything together. There's a question from Grania. Do you have the question there, or do you want to go?
Okay. There's two questions from Anthony Foote. He asks, there is a combination of Excel workbooks, firstly saved on a local drive and second on SharePoint. It appears that the C drive is required for the add-ins and the macros to run on schedule, while the SharePoint is required for the Power BI regular refresh. Can't everything work on SharePoint and in OneDrive folder? Does it have to have the C drive in there?
Yeah, you can put it on a SharePoint. You can do it, but it's harder to work with.
Yeah, macros and the OneDrive, SharePoint, it gets messy because of the file paths, right?
It'll bite you in the ass and it's slow. Something I forgot to answer this question. It's really important. This application that I showed you using AnyDesk is actually in a little computer that's sitting under a desk in Edmonton. Okay, it's my own personal dedicated computer sitting in the office connected to their network. It does nothing but this. So it's fast because it's dealing everything locally. If you put your data and your files in OneDrive, it'll work, but it'll slow right down because you got to open them and close them and open them. So, and then, and there's another
download
point.
them.
But there's another point too. If you're dealing with financial data, you want to do it the way I've done it. I just do it out of habit. Is I keep the raw data local and I put only the results up in the cloud. That if it's financial data, you've already cleaned it, right? So Power BI is an analytical tool. You shouldn't be sending detailed data to Power BI. You should send summary data that's aggregated down to a certain level of granularity. If you want to look at detailed data, go to your line of business software and look up a query an invoice, query that. But the whole idea is to aggregate your data and be using it for management decisions. I mean, I remember a story quickly at Labatt's decades ago. Somebody showed me a piece of technology and said, look at this. With this technology, the president, who actually was just down the street, down the aisle from me, said he can find out how much, blue light was sold in that bar right there across the street last night. I said, why? Why would he want to know that? He's the president. That's not his job, right? And the whole idea behind this Power BI, and this is where people get lost, is it's supposed to be an analytical tool, not an information, not a query tool per se, right? So if you keep your detailed data nice and quiet, local, and then just spit out the results, your security is solved, right? Everybody's so worried about security. But yes, you can store the data in OneDrive. Absolutely.
Okay. Anthony has a second question, which is the data from the CC and from MSP sits on two separate tables. For report building, wouldn't it be more convenient to have it all that data in a single table?
Yes, it would, except they have different fields. The fields don't match, right? So Microsoft Project has a much larger set of data than Condo Control. And the records are different. There's not like this is an extension of that record. They're completely separate tables. So if you put them together, you could put them into one table, but you'd have a whole bunch of empty fields in Condo Control, and that's how you could do it. You could pull them together, and the fields that actually do match would be fine, but then you'd have a whole bunch of nothingness. So you're right, you could do it that way. And in effect, I did do that by matching the fields that actually are in both tables in one table, right? I did do that.
Yeah.
But he's right. You could have, but then you'd have all these sparse data, and it's harder to work with.
So it was a choice that you made because of how the data was.
It's because of the data was different, right?
Yeah.
Now, if a good example, if say you're going at multiple versions, multiple offices have the same software in different offices. There's a perfect example. If you go and get this office's data, that one, this one, and that one, if they're using the same database or clouds, then the field should be the same. Then you just put them together into one table, and you add a field saying this is Office A, this is Office B, Office C. Then you got something to work with. You've accomplished the same thing. But if the data is distributed, right, that's how you would use this kind of technology to consolidate it. Think about a business. How many businesses have all of this information kept in different cities or different continents, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you could even do this with spreadsheets in every office. If you could have a standard spreadsheet for everybody putting in their daily sales, right? Because accounting, that's not an accounting kind of function. That's a marketing and sales function. If they put in their daily sales in different files in all these places, you could use this kind of a process to consolidate it and say, here's your sales for today, right?
So Anthony has one final, well, I don't know that it's final.
No, he's used up his question.
Well, not actually a question. He says that he liked the use of Task Scheduler. It was simple and free. So that's a nice tip you're giving everyone.
Free is the big word.
Yes.
Simple is not the word.
Simple is not the word?
Yeah, it's quirky.
Yeah.
But it works. You got to figure out, there's no documentation on it. You got to figure out, there's strange little quirks in it. And I had to beat my head against the wall till I got it working. Now I can use it all the time. I'm happy. That's part of the whole learning process. But the main thing is it's free.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's no documentation. Sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Vernia.
No, I was just going to say there's no documentation. I know I've tried to use it. I gave up.
There is sort of documentation, but Microsoft documentation is I find that doesn't help me much.
No.
It's written by smart people for use by smart people.
The only thing that people need to know also, or one thing that people need to know also, is that it does not run on the cloud. So you really have to have a machine always turned on or turned on during the time you want it to run, that you have scheduled to run, right?
And there's two ways of looking at it. There's two types of machines. One is what I have, which is a box sitting under a table, which just sits there and runs. And that's not expensive. I mean, you can go buy one at Best Buy, and that's all you need. The other one is to have a virtual machine. And you can have Windows running on a virtual machine, and you've got all of this. That you got the task scheduler, you got Excel, you got everything, and you could run it on a virtual machine. And like you said, you can turn it on, turn it off, or you just leave the virtual machine on all the time.
On all the time.
That's my preferred solution, but it costs money, right? This box sitting under a table costs them nothing. It's just
very little, and it's just a one-time cost, right? And the virtual machine,
they already had the machine, they just weren't using it.
Yeah.
There you go. So
and the virtual machine may incur on recurring costs, right? For people to use it.
I use a virtual machine. You saw me using Windows on a virtual machine. It costs me very little because I have a really basic virtual machine in Azure that has 2 processors, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and it's like $35 a month, right? So I can always turn it up and say I want 10 processors and I want 64 billion bytes of RAM, and I want to use that for an hour. The price will go up for an hour, and then it'll drop down if I set it back. It's kind of cool, actually, so I can ask for more power, and then I can shrink it back down.
As you need it. That's nice.
Yeah.
And there's one even better trick. Originally, if I shut it down, it stayed down until I started it up. So I didn't pay anything for it when I shut it down. So if I'm not using it, it doesn't cost me anything. But it starting automatically. Made me so mad. So it would start and I'd get a bill, but it still wasn't very much. Any other questions?
I have a couple of questions. Are there any other questions on the chat?
None other in the chat.
Okay. So
on chat there is some?
No. Celia has them.
It's a couple of things that came to mind during your presentation, which, by the way, thank you, Dick. It was an excellent presentation and the demonstration of how powerful Excel can be if you are able to choose how to combine all the potential from it and the other tools. You mentioned QuickBooks as one of the possibilities that the CData add-in could work with. I'm just curious, do you know if it is QuickBooks Online or desktop or both?
Both.
That's awesome because
I've used it with online. Yeah.
I every now and then someone reaches out asking how to connect to QuickBooks. I've done exporting from Excel to QuickBooks using also a third-party software. But it's good to know. It's a good tip to have about this add-in, which leads me to the question, do you have a good tip or any tip regarding finding these tools? Is it just finding these third-party tools and deciding on what to use? Is it just browsing and testing, or?
It's just browsing, and every road turns you back to CData. If you go to Microsoft, they point you to CData. And CData has all of them. They're really aggressive, but their stuff works. And their pricing is interesting because they're not giving it away, which I think is kind of nice to see in today's world. Everybody gives crap away. Right? They're saying, "Oh, we're proud of our product, and $600 a year is nothing." That's their attitude, right? And I buy that. I definitely buy that. Okay? So, but otherwise, you just gotta surf. The advantage using one vendor like CData, just like using one vendor like Microsoft, is that they have a way of doing things, and so you learn their way. So it sounds like I'm like I don't get paid by them. I don't get paid by anyone.
Would you like to just give a note, give us a note about REST APIs for people who may not be familiar with it, what they need to learn or look into to be able to use a REST API? connection?
Yeah, I mean, the best answer is to go online, but there's an awful lot of noise about REST APIs out there that doesn't help you. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
There's all kinds of people with opinions, and it's just a blur of knowledge of facts. And every REST API implementation is slightly different than any other because they have their own requirements. Um, it's I had to figure it out on my own because frankly, I didn't get a lot of cooperation. And so I had to learn. I got a couple of documents, but I had to figure it out on my own and ask questions of people who didn't want to answer them. And that's what happens in the business today, right? I mean, that's not new, right? But it's worse now than ever. They go, I'm sorry, I'm busy. I don't have time for you. You're not making me money. And they're right. But, but so I kind of don't like the REST API, but it seems to be a standard. And so you've got to just understand each implementation, and then you got to beat your head against the wall. And every time you do one, you're going to know more. That's how we got to where we are today.
Yeah,
The
we
only
build up.
thing is, in the old days, people would pay you to figure things out. I used to get paid to do new projects using technology I hadn't used before because they just wanted it. Those days are gone. So you have to learn it unless you're lucky enough and have a job and your boss is willing to pay for you to spend time learning it. Bosses tend to have a shelf life for that. Okay, I'll give you a weekend or I'll give you a week or something. And sometimes what they think and what's actual is totally out of whack. But that's the way the business is. If you want to be in the computer software business, that's the game we're in today. And
Yeah.
you know, Celia, it used to really get me down. But now I look at it as just the way it is. Right? And if in the end, companies have to come around and realize that this is not easy and they have to throw some money at it. Right? If somebody can produce the results, we're heroes, right?
Yeah, and when you were saying that you avoid sometimes to tell the client that you
Yeah.
are using Excel to solve their problems, sometimes, most of the times, the client just wants a solution. They don't care
They don't care what
what is it
technology is
that you
doing.
use. Yeah, as long as it works and it saves them time and money, that's all it matters for them, and that's it.
And if you offer them an Excel report and it looks nice, they're going to like that. That's not a negative. What's going on behind under the hood is not none of their business, but it doesn't have to be discussed,
Yeah.
right? Unless they ask.
Yeah, sometimes they do want to know and they want to be able to make changes, but that's our job to protect our tool from them, depending on their knowledge. But
Because like I look at Excel and it is an absolute magical technology, conceptually, in implementation, everything they've done to it, everything they've added to it. It is just a powerhouse running on powerhouse PCs with huge amounts of RAM, fast processors. It's a grid, multiple grids, right? It's just it's such a fantastic environment to work in, and yet we can't seem to. As long as I've been around, 40 years, oh, it's Excel, or it used to be, oh, Lotus. No, they don't take it seriously. But somehow Microsoft has built all this capability into this thing, and it's all sitting there. I'm not sure if the people who are at Microsoft now even know the value of all the moving parts. They work on one part of it. When you add it all up, it's
yeah, and
it's
they keep adding.
fabulous.
Now we have Python as well in Excel, right?
You
And
get all kinds of capability.
yeah, and the rejects the new functions. Yeah, and so it gets to a point where you just need to know how to pick and choose to build what you need, the solution for what you need, and there might be multiple ways of building a solution. But it's up to you to decide.
But again, this is the reason I brought this up, is that a core requirement is getting data, right? That's the thing. And this kind of thing, which is automatic, front to finish, no user involvement at all.
With that is really amazing.
It's
And you are not using the cloud.
not really.
Yeah, not really. It's because these days we have the flows and whatnot that rely on stuff that is running on the cloud, but that's not the case because here you are using the Windows scheduler, task scheduler, to make it happen, to automate it.
It's better than that. I didn't want to get into the details of my code because of time and everything. There's some interesting things going on in the code that I can only do in VBA. I go in VBA on time, now plus 5 seconds, run this macro. Therefore, for 5 seconds, the macro stops. It goes on and then runs. And what I have it loop on itself. And what it's doing is looking for something. And if what it looks for is true, then it carries on. If not, it loops back and back and back. And I can make it 5 seconds, 10 seconds. A couple of things I had to change from 2 to 5 to 8 in this application to make sure that it got done before I moved on. How else do you do that, right? You can't in the internet, it's just nuts. And the reason why it's important is the internet returns stuff in its own time.
Yeah, it tends to be slower, much slower than VBA.
And you have no control over when it's finished because it's a separate process. So my little idea of saying if nothing comes back, then I assume it's finished.
Yeah.
In some cases you can't do that, but in this case it works.
Yeah. All right.
I would love to give people more detail on this, and I know Grania. Yeah, that's easier. Grania. That you asked about that. What can I give you physically, right? I'm willing to talk to people about this more. Maybe there's a course in this.
What's the best way to find you, Dick, if people are interested?
I'll put it in the chat again.
Yeah.
Okay, great. If there aren't any more questions, if you still have any questions or comments, feel free to either type in the chat or just come off mute and take this last opportunity. In the meantime, thank you, Dick, very much for the wonderful presentation, all the efforts, the time you spent producing your PowerPoint, preparing your tool, and most of all, being willing to share all the details and all the thoughts about developing custom software or custom applications with Excel.
Thank you, Dick.
I appreciate that.
Long live Excel.
Long live Excel, and long live to you. I can only imagine it's difficult to put a value on all the years of experience that you have with Excel and all the knowledge that you have about it. So I hope people reach out to you, and and good luck, and thank you for being with us today. Any other questions? If not, I'll give it one.
Thank you, everybody. And the timing isn't bad. It's only 15 minutes over. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. People are saying thank you. Thank you.
And please, anybody reach out anytime and ask me any questions you want.
And Steve.
Oh, there it is. There's everything. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay.
We'll talk soon, Celia.
Great way to finish our sessions on Meetup, on our Meetup group for the year, and we'll be back with some news shortly, close to the new year. And we'll see you around. Happy holidays, everyone! And make sure you start your year with your right foot, as we like to say in Portugal. Step in it with the right foot. We
Yeah.
climb on top of a chair when it's midnight, and then we come down with our right foot. That's how we do it.
Really?
Yeah,
Don't fall on your ass because that would be
yeah.
the first thing going on.
Don't, yeah. Be careful. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Let's
you.
talk
Good night,
soon.
all.
Merry
Thanks.
Christmas, Happy
Thanks,
Holidays.
Dick.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Thank you for coming, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.